What's up, YouTube? This is Jim Afanis, aka Viper Magic, with a little bit of Destiny beta gameplay. For everybody who currently owns a PlayStation 3 or PlayStation 4 who pre-ordered Destiny, it now has a week of exclusive beta access. The servers will then go down for a day or two. Then they'll open up for everyone, whether they have PlayStation or they pre-ordered on the Xbox 360 or the Xbox One. At this time, there's no PC port being announced for Destiny. And then the beta will shut down, and then September 9th, the game will go live. So I got into the early PlayStation 4 access. Again, I'll be using Share Factory to record a little bit of multiplayer today. And I thought I'd kind of just show off some of the differences between beta and alpha. And to be honest, there's really not a whole lot. Obviously, we're getting some new content in the beta that we didn't get in the alpha. But the alpha gameplay was actually very polished. The only multiplayer mode that was available in the alpha was the deathmatch, traditional multiplayer. In this mode, in the beta mode, we're now given access to the control. Control is capturing 3 different zones and maintaining them. If you control either Alpha, Bravo, or Charlie, your team begins to get points. The first team to 20,000 points, or when the timer runs out, it's a 12-minute map, wins. A little added bonus that the guys at Bungie threw in to make this more competitive in Control and not to just have the traditional deathmatch dominate the rest of the game is you actually get score multipliers and additional points depending on how many points you control, which I think is really interesting. So if you have only 1 point, a kill is only worth so much, but if you have 2 or all 3 points, not only do you bleed points faster in the bottom right-hand corner and get more points faster, but you'll see there as I'm killing people, you'll see like a 1x or 2x control. So multipliers do matter. It does really change the impact of the game very quickly. So it's a smart move on Bungie's part to kind of put that back in. While I'm actually playing through some of the multiplayer, Bungie released some inside kind of tips or whatever, just to kind of talk about some of the multiplayer elements that may not be clear entirely. So the first one that they mention is that the level advantages are completely disabled in standard Crucible matches. The Crucible obviously is the multiplayer hub where all multiplayer matches take place. And Bungie said that people will bring in all their own gear and they'll matchmake players based on skill. So as I play competitive multiplayer, the other game I play the most multiplayer of, where I do player versus player, is World of Warcraft, where it is pretty well balanced at endgame. And prior to endgame, there are certain classes at certain skill levels that get skills that kind of break the competitive spirit of multiplayer. Not to go off on a tangent of Warcraft, but the Warlock gets some fierce spells early on that make them very, very hard to beat very early on. As where Warriors get a lot of don't get hamstring and movement impairing effects until later in the game. So as you're leveling through and playing, a level 7 guy fighting a level 8 guy will be at a significant disadvantage. So it's interesting that Bungie's going to go ahead and kind of standardize that. Another thing that multiplayer includes is there are no heavy weapon pickups immediately. So as you notice, and in this map I don't even use a heavy weapon, but you have your 2 primary weapons. In this case I'm using a pulse rifle and a shotgun. The shotgun ammo is limited. I have to pick that up. The heavy ammo is also limited. I have to pick that up. What makes the heavy ammo interesting is it'll only appear at certain times in the map, and the announcer will call it out. There's some actually right there. I'm looking at the screen out of that purple stuff. When somebody picks it up, if they don't use it and they get killed, they drop it for somebody else. So it kind of becomes if you really want to play power weapons and you really want to just pick up the big machine guns and rocket launchers and such, the way that ammo is not unlimited in this game really kind of makes that more competitive. I think that's a great idea. I don't like that people can get, just start the game with like one-shot kills. Now, the exception to that being your superpower, which does slowly tick up over time. that is a one-shot kill. If you can get it off, there is a little bit of vulnerability animation prior to executing the move. However, it's limited, and it's only kind of a reward, I guess, for players who are really dominating. So if you get kills a lot and you start capping points faster and that sort of thing, then your superpower will recharge faster. I also noticed while playing through the game, I actually level up. I don't believe it's in this video, but when you level up, you immediately get a superpower. I mean, your level immediately just fills your meter, so that's kind of interesting as well. They talk a little bit more about some of the tracker, which is your map in the upper left-hand corner. Friendlies will always show up regardless of where they're on the map. That's pretty standard in multiplayer. If you go into a team, if you go into a game with an existing fire team, which in this map I'm only playing solo, those players will show up as a different color. They'll show up as green instead of the standard blue, which is interesting. So you'll have the ability to see everyone on the map, but then obviously your friends you'll be able to see kind of in a different light, which it's kind of standard. I've seen Battlefield 4 do that, where, you know, squad members will appear in a different color or whatever. So I can't say that's a huge value added, but it's nice that that does exist for when we start establishing good fire teams. The other interesting thing that they talk about is that the enemies will always show up on the tracker. Previously, in one of my older videos, I talk about how I like to walk around, and I continue to walk around in here. I thought when you walked, you didn't appear on enemies' maps. That is not true. It has nothing to do with movement. If you are crouched, however, you'll ping less frequency. And the idea behind this is to reduce camping. So I like to walk around because my aiming isn't that great, and I can't do that running snap kind of movement. But for the players who are kind of twitchy and running around, they'll fit right in. For players that me like to take a little slower, maybe we'll ping a little less frequently, but we'll still be on the map. I do get blindsided quite a few times in this match and every match that I've had. So, but I do have to give them credit for trying to alleviate some of the camping. You'll notice as I'm hanging around this C point, there's that crate on the ground. It falls over. That is such a hot spot for people camping and hiding. Towards later on, as I did more and more of these gameplay sessions, I immediately would just run over there and just blindly shoot because there's usually somebody there. So the maps aren't really indicative of camping because there's a lot of open sight lines and everything, but it's still nice to know that enemies will never be completely transparent on the map, and I like that. I think that's a great idea. Supers I've already kind of talked about a little bit. They now explain what the orbs of light do. So if you notice, when you actually hit your super move, it'll say you generated an orb of light. If any teammates are nearby you when you generate and hit your super, they can pick up those orbs of light, and their super will recharge faster. So again, kind of sticking to that team element of making sure that people are working together and huddling together. This is definitely, I noticed, at least in my experience, playing with teammates and kind of huddling together, I do significantly better than when I'm a lone wolf. I'm sure other people have other comments on that, but to me, this is definitely a good team game. I noticed that there are mostly 6-on-6 multiplayer maps. However, I'm sorry, not multiplayer maps, multiplayer modes. There are 2 3 versus 3, so just for fire squads only, or fire, I think they call them fire squad, maybe fire team. You know, for kind of pre-made teams only. The maps are small enough where I don't really feel like the action is lagging. I compare this to Titanfall, which took a significant amount of flack for 6-on-6 multiplayer. I haven't really heard that so much here. I don't know why. Short of that, these maps are tighter, and in Titanfall, it was ginormous maps populated with AI creeps, which you killed to reduce your Titan drops. So maybe it's because the AI isn't so densely populated, people haven't really critiqued it too much. But I found in my experience with playing both the alpha and the beta, and again, I didn't see many significant differences, but I never felt like I was alone for too long. The radar did a really good job of honing me in on where everybody was, and I typically use that as my guide to walk. On these type of maps where you're, going after certain objectives. Obviously, action will be more funneled to that area than other areas anyway. So I don't know. I don't know if there's really a whole lot of controversy there with the actual amount of players. Weapon balance, I haven't really gotten to dive too much into that yet. I believe my character is level 7 or 8 now. When I recorded this video, I believe I was 5 going on 6. I didn't really see anything that was really OP or anything that was significantly stronger than anything else, with the exception of heavy weapons, which I understand that is a limited ammo and harder to get. So one-on-one against anybody with a heavy weapon, you're pretty much going to lose. And not that I'm okay with that, but I understand that that is a kind of above and beyond weapon, function other than just your traditional shotgun or handgun or anything like that. I think the graphics look great. I don't think they've really touched anything. They said through the official Bungie website and just some other, interviews that media has done with the Bungie employees. I don't see really a whole lot of anything being changed from the alpha to the beta. They're going to be doing more stress tests. They said, crazy things may happen. I haven't really seen anything on the multiplayer side. Single player side, I've noticed some differences, but I'll do another video about that. I just really want to focus on the multiplayer today. I like this map. I think it looks good. Again, I felt like it had some pretty good sightlines to it. I found I wasn't using the jetpack as much on this map as I do on normal maps, with the exception of the B point. Moving up to the B point, I felt like I used the jetpack a lot. There were a couple different ways to get there. You could long jump from C, and then if you're coming from the kind of A side, there was a small little platform you had to land on. And I'm still not that great with jetpack aiming in general. My finesse level isn't there yet. But on top of that, I noticed that when I really get a lot of air with that jetpack, I have a very hard time coming down at a rapid rate. And I don't know if this is by design. I noticed this in the single player mode as well. But I felt like there were times I was just kind of floating, waiting to come down. And I felt really vulnerable. So if there is a toggle button that allows me to press a button and immediately just drop altitude, that would be great. I haven't figured it out. I'm not saying it's there or it's not. But if it isn't, that's kind of an oversight on these guys' part, because you're really stuck in the air. Especially on that B point, and I've done it a couple times in this video. You'll see I'm just looking down at my feet, and I just feel like I'm hovering in the air forever, and I'm really vulnerable. I could understand the trade-off between that if they didn't want to, again, have the jetpack be too OP, but I don't know, it feels a little too floaty to me, if that is even really a real adjective. So anyways, there you guys have it. Just wanted to give some multiplayer experiences, some thoughts on what I saw. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll be doing more of these in the next couple weeks as we get a little bit more beta time. I'll probably be focusing more on the single player, but I wanted to show off some of the multiplayer. I'll probably go through some skill tree stuff later on. Anyways, hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys on the other side.